Good afternoon. Welcome to the MCA Foundation's Regional Bioscience Poster Session. We're happy that you could join us today. My name is Jackie Butler. I'm the Senior Director of Operations at the MCA Foundation, and I'm happy to help us navigate through this virtual platform for today's events, our first ever virtual poster session. We will begin the regional research panel discussion in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I'd like to go over some quick housekeeping instructions for hop-in. So as you can see on the agenda in the event platform, we're beginning today with a regional research panel discussion. Following the panel discussion, we will begin the poster session at approximately 4:15. The poster session will last until 5 p.m. and then we'll have an opportunity to network with all attendees on the platform. You will see on the left-hand side of your screen an option for entering the stage where you are now. And at about 4:15, you'll be able to enter the poster sessions and you'll see that icon open up for you. In the meantime, please feel free to utilize the chat box or the comments box if you have any questions or concerns, and we will begin momentarily. Thank you. Once again, welcome to the MCA Regional Bioscience Poster Session. It's my honor to introduce Emma Schwartz, CEO of the MCA Foundation, to begin our regional research panel discussion. Emma Schwartz serves as president of the MCA Foundation, a nonprofit organization that drives the vision for positioning the Paso del Norte region as the premier center of health delivery, medical education, and biomedical research in the El Paso, Juarez, and southern New Mexico populations. Prior to joining the MCA Foundation, Emma was founder and president of Wolschlager Consulting, LLC, a healthcare management and regulatory compliance consulting company. Emma's involvement in the community includes work as director of Westar Bank in El Paso and the Paso del Norte Center of Hope, an anti-human trafficking outreach and victim support organization. She is a member of the Borderplex Alliance, formerly the Paso del Norte Group. She is on the advisory board of the Greater El Paso Chamber of Commerce and previously served as a trustee on the YWCA Foundation Board, a director of the La Fe Preparatory Academy Board, and a lay member of the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee. Emma also serves on the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. She holds a master's degree in health services management from UCLA School of Public Health and a Bachelor of Arts degree in human biology with a concentration in comparative health policy from Stanford University. Emma, I'll welcome you to the stage now so we can begin our panel discussion. Thank you.
Great. Am I on?
You are. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks so much, Jackie, and welcome everybody to the 5th annual MCA poster session. This is actually one of my favorite events that the MCA does. And I want to start by giving a special thank you to El Paso Electric for sponsoring this event. I want to also start by talking a little bit about the MCA mission and vision. Our mission is to catalyze a life sciences ecosystem here in this region and eventually to become a global leader in life sciences. And this poster session is a key ingredient to growing that life sciences ecosystem as an element for growing our regional collaboration. So in addition to events like this, the MCA has several programs aimed at innovation and collaboration, including our medical device product development lab that has training programs, regulatory support, and prototyping for medical devices. We have our Clinical Trials Consortium and Clinical Trials Academy. Also, our innovation center that includes the Nurse Innovator Program. And we have STEM camps aimed at middle schoolers throughout our region to make sure that we have the workforce we need to fill all these great roles that we need. If you want to learn more about us, you can visit us at www.mcamericas.org. But let's start talking about this poster session. The purpose of this interinstitutional regional poster session is to highlight our regional research institutions, to celebrate and promote collaboration, and to support and inspire commercialization of all this great research that's happening. Today, we're excited to have 17 posters to present coming from the University of Texas at El Paso, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, El Paso, the Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine, and UT Health School of Public Health in El Paso. But before we move on to the posters, we have a very exciting panel featuring the leaders of research at our regional research institutions. And let me begin by giving a little bit of background on these amazing leaders. First, Joseph Benoit, PhD, is Assistant Dean for Research and Professor of Physiology and Pathology at the Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine in Las Cruces. His career in academia spans more than 35 years and has involved working at all levels, ranging from the professorate, where he has held faculty positions at 5 medical schools, to graduate school dean with the campus-wide authority to preside of a Benedictine liberal arts college. His early research centered on microvascular physiology, vascular smooth muscle regulation, and lymphatics physiology. In recent years, he has devoted his efforts to new and emerging medical schools, where his work involves curriculum design, building research infrastructure, faculty development, and teaching. Current and past professional activities include membership on the American Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine Council of Researchers, the American Physiological Society Education Committee, the Council of Graduate Schools, the National Council of University Research Administrators, the International Council of Accreditation, and Public Responsibility in Medicine and Research. He has published numerous papers in areas of physiology and higher education and has been invited to speak on his scholarly work at national and international meetings. Outside of work, he is a trumpet player in the Las Cruces New Horizons Concert Band and the Mesilla Valley Concert Band. Well, goodness, I learned something new about you today. Dr. Benoit, welcome. Next, we have Dr. Clegg. She's a known expert in the field of sex hormones and metabolism with a specific interest in nutrition and how it interacts with physiology. She's authored over 150 articles in impactful journals such as the New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, American Journal of Physiology, and the National Kidney Foundation. Dr. Clegg is the Vice President for Research at the Paul Foster School of Medicine, Texas Tech Medical School in El Paso, Texas. She and her research have been featured in many forms of media, to include the television program The View and the HBO series The Weight of the Nation, as well as in popular press to include magazines such as Vogue, Mademoiselle, Ladies' Home Journal, and Nature. Dr. Clegg has conducted her own basic science research, as well as participated in clinical and translational research for over 25 years. Our local celebrity, Dr. Clegg, welcome. Dr. Kirkin received his BA in chemistry from Olivet College in southeastern Michigan and completed his PhD in biomedical sciences at Wright State University in Ohio. He then worked as a postdoctoral fellow and staff scientist at the National Cancer Institute before joining the faculty at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston with a joint appointment in the MD Anderson Cancer Center. In 2005, he became professor and chair of the Department of Biological Sciences at UTEP and has served as a dean of UTEP's College of Sciences since 2013. As dean, Dr. Kirkin oversees the operating and research budgets for the College of Science. He's been involved in the recruitment and hiring of over 50 tenure and tenure-track faculty at UTEP and helps to facilitate their success and retention through coordinated efforts such as mentoring, teaching, and research support. In his role as principal investigator of the Border Biomedical Research Center, he has markedly expanded UTEP's infrastructure and supports faculty and student engagement in high-end cutting research focused on Hispanic cancer health disparities. He has strategically promoted the development of research core labs that provide investigator access to state-of-the-art equipment and methodologies, thereby allowing for increased productivity and interdisciplinary research. Dr. Kirkin's own work as a leading cancer researcher has focused on T-cell mediated diseases such as leukemia, lymphoma, and autoimmune disorders, with the goal of developing new diagnostic and therapeutic strategies to effectively treat these conditions. He has received numerous awards for his research, published nearly 100 peer-reviewed works, secured patents, and generated more than $50 million in funding throughout his career. That is amazing, Dr. Kirkin. Welcome today. And last but not least, we have Dr. Christy Mena, the Dean of the El Paso campus of the University of Texas Houston School of Public Health. Dr. Mena earned a Bachelor of Arts in Biology and English at Franklin College in Indiana, and a Master of Science in Public Health at the University of South Florida, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Environmental Microbiology and Epidemiology at the University of Arizona, and she completed her postdoctoral fellowship at Kansas State University in Food and Animal Health and Management Center. Dr. Mena has 30 years of experience addressing the relationship between humans and the environment. Her research has been applied to inform best protection practices in a range of settings, including the International Space Station, to advance the National Aeronautics Space Administration's Mars exploration goals, as well as the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Dr. Mena completed 2 terms on both the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, Chartered Science Advisory Board, and the U.S. EPA Drinking Water Committee. She's also served as an expert panelist for the National Water Research Institute regarding water reuse practices. She's published in the peer-reviewed literature and is invited speaker at national and international conferences. I'm going to need a PhD just to read your bios. I will tell you what, we have a phenomenal group of panelists today, and it's just exciting to know that we have this level of expertise in our community and leading our education and research programs. So to begin with, I'd like to invite each of you to please give an overview of your university research program, the types of grants you all are getting, your expenditures per year, focus areas, a general overview. And we can begin with Dr. Benoit.
Well, good afternoon. Give you a little bit. We're the new kid on the block, actually, in the area. The Burrell College of Osteopathic Medicine was established in 2013. We took our first class in 2016. We are a freestanding, fully accredited private osteopathic medical school, and we're located on the New Mexico State University Arrowhead Research Park campus. We currently accept 162 students a year. We're going to be expanding that to 200 starting this July. We enroll 636 students, and we have graduated 278 osteopathic physicians over the last 2 years. What we're very proud about is we have a higher than 97% placement rate of our graduates in graduate medical programs and associated programs. Like most osteopathic schools, we operate under a distributed medical clinical environment, and we operate regional academic hubs in Albuquerque, Gallup, southeastern New Mexico, El Paso, Texas, Tucson, Arizona, and most recently the Space Coast of Florida and Rockledge. College will be increasing our enrollment this year, and plans are in 2024 to add an additional 100 students at a Rockledge site. As a new school, our research enterprise is small but growing, and our research laboratories are located at the Southwest Research and Production Complex in the West Mesa Industrial Park in Las Cruces, and consist of basic science research laboratory that can support cellular and molecular studies, as well as a human physiology laboratory supporting research in areas of osteopathic manipulative medicine, neuromodulation of physiologic function, and human metabolism during exercise. We're particularly proud at the Burrell College that we actually have dedicated research space for osteopathic manipulative medicine. Most osteopathic schools kind of use their clinical sites for this type of research, but we are somewhat unique in that regard. Our research programs operate under a general philosophy of students working under faculty mentors in a supervised research environment. And as a result of that, we include numerous opportunities for students, such as summer research experiences, elective research rotations, a multi-year distinction in research program. And since our inception, at least on average, about 30% of our students engage in some research during their medical education. And we're seeing an increase in that, actually. Our sponsored programs are young and expanding. So as a private proprietary school, our funding to date has come from foundations, or other funding agencies like the American Osteopathic Association. We are starting to pursue NIH and other federal opportunities for research. Our research expenditures are about $500,000 a year right now. So again, we're a small school looking to grow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benoit. Dr. Clegg.
So where his school is the new kid on the block, I'm actually the new person on the block. So I've just been here at TTU since the 1st of May. My first goal was to sort of define what the opportunities and challenges are with respect to research on this campus. We're relatively small, but it is my charge to grow our research endeavors. We have about a $2 million a year expenditures. Most of this is actually coming from the National Institutes of Health as well as small and private foundations. We're unique because we now have a dental school, a nursing school, and a medical school all within our campus. And this is going to allow us to have many different types of collaborative research opportunities that never before have we ever had the opportunity to have. The dental school is brand new. This is their first class. They've brought in many funded researchers, so we envision that the dental related research opportunities will significantly grow in a very short period of time. The nursing school is also relatively new. However, they are new specifically with respect to research, and so our goal is to grow their research endeavors as well. We are encouraging all of our students, whether they're a medical, dental, or nursing student, to engage in research. It is a requirement for our medical students and dental students. They engage in research within the first year of coming onto campus, and then they find a mentor, and then they're required to interact with that mentor for their full 4 years during their curriculum, and actually engage in a research project. So we think that this is going to be a fantastic way of actually significantly increasing the exposure of these young students to research and hopefully incentivizing them to go on and do continued research in different areas. Our areas of research focus relies on what our constituents, our patient population is in most need of. We have a focus on diabetes and metabolism, on cancer, as well as on neuroscience. So again, we're relatively new. We are definitely growing our research enterprise. We have phenomenal basic science laboratory space, and we have a brand new building that is loaded with space that is currently unoccupied, but is absolutely state of the art. And what we envision is really growing our clinical research outreach program. And so that's who we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clegg. Dr. Kirkin.
Hello, Emma. Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here, and really happy to share some of the thoughts with the panelists here and hopefully some of the folks with the posters later this afternoon. As I think all of you are aware, UTEP is a fairly large university, 25,000 students. Of course, we have a new president. We have 3 new strategic research plans over the next decade, which is to sustain and foster the expansion of existing major centers of research, promote the development of new research centers of excellence, and I think a key one, which is the deepen partnership with the healthcare providers and expand collaborative research within the region. Collectively, of course, there's significant grant funding, primarily from NIH and NSF, but the past fiscal year, 2021, we had about $108 million in research expenditures. As for me in the College of Science, we have 4 specific areas of research, which is to understand the science of extreme environments, develop strategies to maximize the sustainability of limited resources, integrate data science, informatics, and analytics for global solutions. And I think one of our largest and strongest areas is to develop initiatives to reduce Hispanic health disparities. And as Dr. Clegg said, these are really focused in the areas of cancer, infectious disease that's here unique to the border, diabetes, metabolic disorders, and those that are affecting neurocognitive behavior. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Kirkin. And Dr. Mena.
Hi, thank you. So yes, for the UT Houston School of Public Health El Paso campus, we are celebrating our 30 years in El Paso this year. We have each of the 5 core disciplines of public health represented at our campus. But as some of you already know, we do have 6 campuses around the state of Texas, and we function as one large school and one faculty body, one student body. So one of our objectives is to bring resources to the region, and that includes mentoring of students from our faculty, regardless of their campus, and educational programs. Our research funding varies from sources such as NIH and NSF and EPA to foundations like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the American Heart Association, those types of things. For our research funding last year, now not at the UT Health level, not the university, but the School of Public Health last year was just over $52 million in research funding. The El Paso campus was at $2.6 million. Our research spans health promotion, environmental science. We have a new center under development called the Center for Community Health Impact under the direction of Dr. Leah Wiggum, who some of you may know from the Institute for Healthy Living. And then for our degree programs, we are continuing to expand. So as many of you know, we have the MD MPH with the Paulo Foster School of Medicine. I'm excited that we'll be starting the DMD MPH with the Woody L. Hunt School of Dental Medicine. Yesterday, we have the official paperwork signed with UTEP for the MBA MPH with the College of Business Administration. And then this fall, we're launching an executive style MPH in healthcare management. So I think with public health is an applied science, and there's I think a little bit of something for everybody if you're interested in not just the pandemic, but getting involved in public health. So thank you.
Awesome. This is amazing. So I was born and raised here in El Paso, and 3 of you were not represented in El Paso when I was growing up. And UTEP was a much different organization than it is today. So it's really remarkable that in only, 5 years since I graduated from high school, all this change happened. No, I'm just kidding. It's been longer than that, but it's exciting that we have all of these phenomenal options for our students growing up to aspire to attend one of these universities, and the collaboration opportunities. When you're one university, it's hard to collaborate, and now we have several universities to collaborate. So moving into the discussion of collaboration, here's a question for Dr. Kirkin and Dr. Clegg. UTEP and Texas Tech issued collaborative research grants between researchers from your institutions recently. Can you describe that program and some of the projects that were funded and how that program is going?
I can go ahead and start if you'd like, Dr. Kirkin. Okay, so it was an amazing program, and again, this was one of the very first things that I was able to do when I had joined the institution, was to review these joint grants. So it was a program to really foster and establish a greater collaboration between UTEP and TTU HSC, and we had 18 grant submissions, and they were phenomenal. Really, really, truly, I was so incredibly impressed with the quality of the science. It was amazing. And the goal was really not just to have, a name of a clinician on a basic scientist grant, but to really foster a collaborative environment where the physician is providing intellect. They're getting something out of the data. They're not just giving a tissue sample over for someone to actually process. And so we were specifically looking at that when we went ahead and decided on which grants to actually fund. And so far, we've had one preliminary meeting with everyone after they were funded. It was about a 6-month meeting, and they're on progress. And so the different types of grants that we've actually funded are really unique, and they span a really broad spectrum. We have some that focused on COVID, of course, because, of course, that was the hot topic. But again, it was a really novel area of focus where we were looking at novel ways that we could actually look at that intersection between disease risk and COVID infection. We had several that were related to cancers and looking specifically at new biomarkers. And this was really exciting because they were looking at new biomarkers specific to the Hispanic population and their incidence of cancer. So again, really reaching out to our public and to our constituents. There was one that looked at a tissue engineering of a gastric patch for gastroparesis. So this combines sort of the engineering aspect of UTEP with the clinicians here, which was a phenomenal project. And I think that there will be great strides that will be able to be realized from that project as well. We even had one that was focusing specifically on medical education, which was a unique partnership looking at trying to address some specific needs in medical education foundation, and spanning again the 2 campuses with respect to that. So these applications were all over the place. It was a challenge as a reviewer to read them because didn't all fall within my area of expertise, but so incredibly exciting with respect to the type of quality of science that these individuals were engaged in. So Dr. Kirkin, I don't know if you want to add anything.
That was a pretty good summary. But I think one of the key aspects of that, it was really trying to bring the strengths of the 2 institutions together. And what was, I think, really encouraging is that both institutions put up funding to support those projects. And I think, as Dr. Clegg said, if you look through those proposals, I mean, it was of course, everything from COVID to SARS to ovarian cancer to amputees. But I think what was really interesting and unique about that was to leverage, for example, some of UTEP's core competencies, which is on the high-end molecular biology, testing, genetics, genomics projects on some of these projects, and then also leveraging the expertise of Texas Tech faculty and those various diseases, models, some of them that had access to patients or wanted to dive more into those types of, I think diseases are really prevalent within this community. And I think we can all agree as we think about El Paso moving forward in that research environment, it's really addressing the issues that most affect our community. And so, I'm really excited about that aspect of the research project. But what I'm also seeing more interest in is potential donors as well that want to support research projects that the 2 institutions or multiple institutions within the region here, which I think includes all of us, how we can work together, how can they provide funding support to be able to do this really exciting work. And of course, at the heart of this is our students that can be trained in this particular area. So I think it's really been an exciting time, and it's only up here, I think.
Yes, I just want to put a plug in too. So we're having a research symposium at Texas Tech, and this will be April 19th through 21. And we're going to showcase some of the individuals that receive the seed grant funding, so that we can follow up on how far they've been able to progress with respect to their research. And the other idea we've also have is that 2 of those will be selected for additional funding, with the goal of really forging a stronger unity, getting some publications out, and hopefully submitting this as an R01. So we're really, really trying to promote this collaboration because we see that it has the potential of being so incredibly fruitful.
That's fantastic. Dr. Clegg, if you send us information on that poster session, we will make sure to send it out through our channels as well.
Outstanding. I will be sure to do that.
Great. Dr. Kirkin, I'm not letting you off the hook yet. I want to bring in Dr. Mena to this discussion. If you could describe some of the collaborative research projects and work that you all do. As a matter of fact, I sat on the BBRC advisory committee for a while, and Dr. Mena, you were running, it's a UTEP program, and Dr. Mena, you were running the meetings. So I know a lot of collaboration goes on between you all.
Yeah, absolutely it does. And I think Christy and I have worked together on many fronts within the BBRC through the years. And I think we've all had the same mindset, how can we utilize the facilities, the expertise, the faculty, the region to be able to answer some of these questions. And, as I was looking through some of the material, there was a couple of really nice grants that I think have come out of the shared work. One was where Dr. Fields was the PI, which was, was targeting psychosocial stressors to reduce Latino day labor injury and disparities, which is funded by NIMHD and NIH. And I think that's been a really strong project that's funded through 2023. And one of the other key programs is the FIT, PHIT Workforce Development Program, to create a diverse and inclusive health information technology workforce in Texas. I think Amy Wagler is the PI on that. But again, a couple $100,000 grant funded through 2025, so very fresh, through U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So I think just scratching the surface on those types of projects and things that we can collaborate on. Again, really exciting to work with UT Houston School of Public Health.
Thank you. Yes, and I'll add, MCA wrote a letter of support for that application for FIT. So thank you. Thank you, Emma. I know you support a lot of us in many things, and that was one in particular. But also I want to mention UTEP and Dr. Kirkin has generously provided lab space for us for many, many, many years. And then that enhanced other collaborations within UTEP, not just within biology, but also engineering. And that led to, further collaborations also with the Center for Environmental Resource Management there at UTEP. And then I think most importantly, in working with students. So students became more aware of other opportunities. We had invaluable experiences mentoring those students, learning from them. And then also, UTEP does a great job of some of the programs with EPCC here. And then we can just continue to expand our research portfolio and the mentorship of a range of students. So I really appreciate all that UTEP has done for us in hosting us in this region for 30 years.
That's really awesome. Thank you, Dr. Mena and Dr. Kirkin. Dr. Benoit, let's talk about Burrell. I know you said that you are a young institution, but I know that you're already creating collaborations. Can you talk a little bit about collaborations that you have in the areas of research and program development with other universities and health centers in our region?
Okay, so my job is to try to fan the flames and get our faculty out there and helping them do things. And we're fortunate in a lot of ways with UTEP. We have Dr. Kristen Gosling here, who's our department chair in physiology, has very strong ties with the cancer project that Dr. Kirkin mentioned. That's a great opportunity. I also learned recently that UTEP will be expanding as a result of a grant that's coming in. It's some of its infrastructure, imaging, animal facilities, and the like. We're really looking forward to seeing that come on board and have indicated our interest in the possibility of ways to partner, because currently we don't have a vivarium or animal research facility. So I think there's some opportunities that are on the horizon there. We have some investigators. We sit on the NMSU campus with projects ongoing in NMSU in areas of infectious disease transmission as it relates to mosquito and diseases, with investigators working with Dr. Kathy Hanley on that campus. We have other investigators that are starting to work with our clinical sites on some interesting research that's going to give us ability to kind of bridge the gap between the use of osteopathic manipulative techniques and how they could possibly be used in patient care in areas that people don't normally think about. And, one, for example, is with neuromodulation and osteopathic techniques in the treatment of psoriasis. We have investigators who just put in grants with that, and we're in a process of getting a clinical trial registered there that will involve some of the local physicians. So we're kind of opportunistic in a way. We're looking for the opportunities that are out there, and we're looking for ways to continue to grow our research program. So that's just a few examples of some of the things that are going on, and we hope to see that continue to build.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to open up this question to all of our panelists, anyone who would like to chime in on this question. Are there areas where we could see all four institutions collaborating on research? And furthermore, what can we do to foster more interinstitutional research within our region? I know I've talked about a regional research database. We've talked here today about some shared equipment. And Dr. Lee in the comments for this event asked whether UTEP and TTU have agreements where UTEP researchers can access clinical samples. So how can we promote this more, and what are the tools we have to promote this?
Well, I'll just mention a couple areas. I think with, I think many, if not all, of our students at our institutions are required to have this interprofessional experiences, and in their own degree programs have requirements regarding research, and they're looking for mentors in different areas. And I know a lot of UTEP faculty mentor medical students in their SART projects. We do as well. So there's lots of overlap there. And so perhaps maybe another coordinated way of identifying students with potential mentors based on their interests, but also I think fostering the community health worker network, realizing now the institutions here in our region are, I think, all interested in working with community health workers or promotores. And that is a group that I think should be nurtured and fostered. For many of the community health workers, this is their income. They are experts in their own knowledge base, and they provide an invaluable service to this region. And they're part of many of our research projects. So if there's a way to enhance that and work together, that would be great. And then finally, I'll just mention, maybe a streamlined IRB process for the region could help make things go a little bit smoother in terms of collaborative research.
I'd agree with a lot of what Christy's bringing up and point out. We've been working on educational programming. We had, I think, 140 UTEP students on our campus about a week ago. In an interprofessional experience, I know our students have gone to UTEP, so that's budding. And if it expands into other areas, I think that would be great. Other areas, outside of translational research, but what I see is an opportunity. We heard, the question was asked, access to samples and patient samples. And I think that, in addition to longitudinal physiologic research types of studies involving patients with chronic conditions, there are some businesses in the area that are quite good at home monitoring. There's some real opportunities to do various measurements and have subjects enrolled in studies respiratory studies in the COVID era, cardiovascular with our individuals that are at risk for cardiovascular disease, variety of things. But what it's going to take in partnership, and I think Dr. Kirkin mentioned some of their capabilities with data management, big data handling, and data storage. So I could see a real opportunity for some partnerships that would involve longitudinal studies with data repositories.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. And perhaps, Emma, we don't really publicize this as much as we should, because I think, all of our institutions have a lot of capabilities. And, within the Border Biomedical Research Center, the BBRC, of course, we have the high-end informatics, we have a biostatistics core, we have a proteomics, we have genomics. What this is, really high-end instrumentation that we don't really feel everyone should duplicate by any means. But those resources are available to the community. But at the same time, as Christy said, we have this great group of promotores too that are very out there in the community. They're engaged. If we've learned anything from COVID, it will be easier to switch them to other diseases, I think, or other conditions that really afflict the region and collect that. And to the point that both of them have made, UTEP does have a biorepository. We are collecting samples, primarily cancer or biopsy material. We do make those available to researchers, especially here in the region. We have been sequencing and annotating a lot of those libraries right now, as a matter of fact. So these, I think, are projects that we would love to see more faculty partner in and generate these larger centers that can really do that transformational work that I think all of us would like to see.
Yeah, and so this is Debbie, and I'll step in and make a comment about the IRB, right? So we have a joint IRB with UTEP, but I'm actually working on making sure that our IRB is much more streamlined, so that, and I'll probably be even coming up with like a central IRB that we can have that will allow all of the institutions to collaborate together. So I'm really working on reforming our IRB to make it much more nimble and much more responsive to the research opportunities that are out there. So that's one area. There's, I think, also UTEP has an absolutely phenomenal research database with respect to the faculty and their specific interests. And it might be an idea that we could have a collaborative research database where we list all of our faculty who are interested in research. And so from all the institutions have one repository So if you were interested in sex hormones and something, you could just go to that repository, use some keywords, and find out where within this region other people might be doing similar research. I think that might be something that we could definitely try, because if you listen to all of us, there's so much synergy. We're doing so much that I love Venn diagrams. You could just look at this beautiful intersectionality, and I think that that's really where our strengths are. And that, combined with the fact that we have a very unique patient population, one that most people aspire to be able to probe and understand more about the Hispanic population. And so I think that we're in the absolute perfect position to be able to obtain funds that specifically focus on health disparities, ethnicity, and the like, and no one else is better positioned than we are.
And I might add, relative to the populations, part of our mission includes the American Indian population in the state. And one of our sites that is growing, it's in a tough community to grow for a lot of reasons, but it's in Gallup. And so we have clinical sites there and affiliations, and we do have students that are starting to do rotations and spend their entire third year in that area as we get as the opportunities develop. So two very unique populations that we just don't have enough good clinical data on with respect to responses to therapies, responses to drugs, everything else. And that's really important for us, I think.
So in 2009, we hosted an FDA conference, the first MCA conference, and we hosted it at Texas Tech. And after that meeting, I worked with the organizing committee, and we said, it was such a phenomenal meeting. Obviously, everyone was still very young in the region, but the outcome was that we thought we really needed a regional research database, Dr. Clegg. So, very sad. Anyway, I wrote it up. I'm going to send it to the four of you after this meeting, because maybe we can revive the concept and collaboratively come up with a way to implement it, because it's really, I think, difficult to form collaborations when you don't even know what's out there. And the whole reason behind these poster sessions is to try to bring some awareness of the different projects and research that's happening. But it's just a slice in time, and to make that live on through a database that's widely used in our region would be fantastic for inter-institutional, but that could be a window for other institutions to collaborate with us as well, which could bring a lot of opportunity. And so, speaking of that, notably absent from this panel today, and we will hopefully bring them on to the next one, is some of our partners from Juarez. So we know that we have a medical school and research happening, and a dental school and nursing school right across the border at UACJ, and we have other universities as well. So do you have any ideas of how we can pull from this amazing resource we have, just a stone's throw from our organizations? I think you can actually throw a stone from UTEP to Juarez. How can we pull them into this research collaborative?
Well, I would say, Emmett, we're already doing that quite a bit, actually. So we already have very strong connections with several of the hospitals there, actually. We actually have an import license, actually, so we can bring materials across the border. So we are collecting cancer samples from Juarez right now. We do have, at the university, we do have like a liquid nitrogen tank there for storage. And so we have very strong ties. So we're probably collecting maybe 20 samples a month or so nothing major and significant, but we've overcome a lot of those hurdles. How do you drive across the border with dry ice and a sample, which sounds pretty simple, but it isn't. But we've worked out a lot of the logistics on that, and we have great partnerships. We have had many of the folks and Chihuahuan leadership over at UTEP to talk about ideas, possibilities, because I think especially for us in Texas, we see this map and we see all this demographics and we see the cancer statistics, and then you see this blank data slide on the Mexico side, right? And I think it would be really fantastic if we can clearly enhance and collect that information, but also the samples, because I think when you're starting to think about environmental factors in the regions and lifestyle, behavioral issues, there's so many things to try to address. But I would say we have some, very good contacts, and it would be great to develop those further, of course.
I think it might be worth considering, and MCA might be the perfect place to host a conference that involves scientists from both sides, researchers from both sides of the border, so that we can begin to share ideas and talk and advance the conversation, hear about the success stories like Bob talked about and others. And I think it would be a great regional opportunity for us to start another conversation and advance a conversation.
Right. Now, and I'll just add, when I moved here in 2001, I was with the faculty who were here at the El Paso campus at that time, and faculty I met at UTEP, and they got me involved in meetings, and we went across the border once a week, sometimes 3 times a month for meetings, and it was really a core of environmental scientists. And then as the years progressed, and 2008 wasn't a great year, there things started to change. But what I've also noticed, and listening to even what Dr. Kirkin was saying, at the institutional level, at least for UT Houston, the El Paso campus, a lot of this activity was driven by the individual researchers or faculty who were here at that time. And obviously we're not as big as UTEP. And so we had a couple of infectious disease epidemiologists who are no longer here. But what I'd like to see through that idea that Dr. Benoit had of a conference is then maybe establishing some more of those institutional lines. But frankly, a lot of our involvement has also been working with UTEP faculty who then included us in those partnerships Dr. Kirkin already mentioned.
No, and this is Debbie. So there's also some interesting data, though, that indicate that their disease prevalence is different if you stay in Mexico versus if you come over the border, right? And so here you have an incredible opportunity to look at a gene-environment interaction where the environment might actually be the same, but there might be some other aspect to be able to probe. So I think that we have to even expand sort of our research ideas about what we can learn from that, having our border family right next to us, that I think is really, really exciting.
Go ahead, Dr. Benoit.
I think the other area that's starting to expand is the area of clinical trials and the opportunities for clinical trials to provide access to healthcare. And there's nothing to preclude individuals, if there's clinical trials, even on the Mexico side, from individuals in the El Paso region from enrolling in studies in either direction. I realize that they can be incredibly complicated, but I think as we're talking about research expansion and innovation, I think clinical trials could offer a real exciting opportunity for regional data, like Dr. Clegg's talking about. Why are there differences that separated by a river? I mean, we're not talking a great distance here,
We're not, but no one seems to have surmounted that short distance. It's a high hurdle, but I think that with the talent we have, and COVID is such an interesting experiment, right? And so many things accelerated. We learned a lot about crossing people and samples and vaccines or no vaccines, and what could and couldn't happen. We had an intercambio médico, and a medical exchange, and we had many Texas Tech doctors who we had giving Zoom presentations to doctors in Juarez on the latest and greatest in COVID at the beginning of the pandemic. So there are a lot of, I think, collaboration opportunities. And, Dr. Kirkin, I think about the equipment you mentioned and the process for crossing samples that you mentioned. And UTEP developing a robust kind of contract service area where how do we make these things available? You figured it out. Let's just go use your process and work through you. Why reinvent the wheel? Okay, so let's move on a little bit away from this basic research kind of conversation and talk a bit about commercialization. Because ultimately we hope that the research that we're doing has a direct impact on humans. And so, and part of the MCA mission is to try to take this research and create commercial opportunities. So the question for you all is, how does your institution promote and or support the commercialization of research?
So we do, and I'm very, very passionate about this because I think there's so many opportunities, and especially when we have young medical students, nursing school students, and dental students, for them to understand that their ideas are patentable, or that we can have some sort of unique structure around their ideas, and opening up again up their mind about the fact that this is an opportunity for them. So what we do is Lubbock has our parent institution has a phenomenal patent office. They come and they visit us pre-COVID monthly, and so now post-COVID, hopefully they will continue to do that. And we're trying to capture all of the sort of native nascent research ideas before they get widely published, so that we can go ahead and secure that patentable or commercialization around those specific ideas. In 2011, we had 11 different, 2021, we had 11 different disclosures. We have 2 provisional patents currently. We have 21 non-provisional patents and 2 licenses. So we are actively trying to encourage our clinicians and our basic scientists to begin to think about commercializations and patents. Again, during our research symposium that we'll be having in April, the patent office will be here. They'll be giving a presentation about how to commercialize your ideas, and they'll be here throughout the entire research symposium. So if people who have specific interests or questions, they'll be available to answer those. So really trying to push forward on what we can and cannot learn from this whole idea about commercialization and patents.
I think from the UTEP side, I think we have a very strong office to protect the IP, to patent, to license, to work with the investigator to further develop those ideas. But I think there's still room, Emma, to grow it from that stage to a potential investor and how to spin that off. I think, we're getting SBIR money, SDTR money. There is some angel investor money. There is foundation money there. But I think, as you know, that marketing campaign and how to identify individuals or companies or entities that would want to invest in that, and how are they going to know about the great work that we're doing here in the region. I mean, that takes a significant marketing task force, I think, to be able to do that. And I think for UTEP, we're at this inflection point. I mean, we are clearly generating some significant research dollars. We have a lot of I think very strong IP technology, but how are we going to get this off the campus into the community? How are we going to spin this off and allow our students to work in this new environment that we hope to see one day, and really create significantly more opportunities for El Paso? I think I look for you to provide some input on how we can do that, actually.
Okay, well, sometimes sponsored research is a way to begin some of this activity. So could you all talk a little bit about sponsored research? And here's another way to bring Juarez in, with so much significant industry in Juarez around medical device, electronics, clean energy manufacturing. I wonder how much they're utilizing our research scientists on this side of the border.
I mean, I'm not in the Office of Commercialization or Technology, of course, but I would say it's fairly limited. And I think that's an area that we could probably expand and grow and further foster those partnerships and collaboration, because I think, as you mentioned, there's a lot of expertise and there's a lot of capability within this region. But I see it as, maybe siloed all over the place and trying to bring everybody together. I think on the NIH side, the NSF side, the entrepreneurship side, I think, we're fundamentally strong, but there's a difference between getting a grant and developing a company, I think. And I think UT system overall has some very flexible rules for our faculty time and how they can work on such projects. So I think the incentive is there for the faculty to do that, but how do you build that pathway to make it much more efficient, and how do you fund it? That could be a conference in itself.
Right. Well, just to add to that, with the UT system, UT Health Houston has a very strong patent office and encourages this type of activity, especially anything that can be applied science or community-driven solutions informed by science. And that's like that tagline from the Center for Community Health Impact that Dr. Wiggum is starting here at our campus. They want to see the tech transfer within the community. And I know right now within public health and the pandemic, looking at, different tools to be public health predictors, what's going to predict the next pandemic. And so that entrepreneurial spirit has always been encouraged at UT Health Houston. And I think that is, like Dr. Kirkin said, part of the UT system philosophy.
And we worked some with the Arrowhead Center at NMSU. We actually had a student a couple of years ago that did obtain patent protection on a polymer that she had developed while at Case Western. So it was involved with professors at Case Western and the polymer, and the whole concept centered around a sleeve that's better than what individuals that wear prosthetics currently have available. So less tissue injury, fewer ulcers, other things. So we did that with NMSU. We also partnered with NMSU back, I want to say probably about 4 years ago, and there was an SBIR STTR conference where the NIH folks came in. That could be another opportunity when we're talking about sponsored programs, is hosting another event where they're there to talk to individuals about how to get funding. Because one of the problems that Dr. Kirkin mentioned, I think most universities have, is SBIRs and STTRs often have restrictions of how much time an individual has to devote to the startup. And it could be significant, which means some faculty would have to take leave from their faculty appointments, which creates a lot of other dilemmas. But with local entrepreneurs, there might be ways to do it. And with our universities, we have a lot of, I think we have a lot of PhDs in the area. I'm meeting a lot that come out of NMSU that stay in the area and have started small businesses and are looking for other opportunities to expand. So I'm sure UTEP has similar groups of alumni where we could tie into.
Yeah, and I think along that same line, I mean, a lot of those grants, those SBIR, TTRs, you need to have a community, another business partner, right? Another entity. And, it may be worthwhile to think about who those entities may be in a list of those in their particular areas of expertise, or how they maybe wanted to expand their portfolio, and how we can maybe match them up with investigators. Because I think UTEP is patenting quite a bit of the technology. But as you said, Emma, just to get out of the grade, just to get an SBIR phase 1 or phase 2 and to have that partner, it would be good to have somebody that would help sponsor that, be seasoned, provide some of that advice and guidance, but just make it possible. Because a lot of those, that's a limiting factor, I think, for us in our region.
So I do think that another silver lining we had from COVID was, the commercialization process is so onerous, so long, and so expensive. And perhaps with what the FDA did in fast tracking the vaccine approvals, that they'll be a little introspective about what, how can they adopt these practices to make all of this continue to be safe processes, but a shorter timeline that would be less expensive and ultimately benefit the patient best. But you've mentioned a few ways potentially that the MCA can support these efforts. We're here, we're all ears, we're happy to be a partner with you all. Do you have some other ideas for ways that the MCA or that the community in general can support you in these efforts? Dr. Benway.
And one of the things that I'm thinking about when you say that is a small institution like ours, one of the things that we're lacking is really good legal support on patent and intellectual property. So the possibility that if MCA could help us and possibly foster connections with good patent attorneys, and people with legal areas that could work across institutions. Each institution wants to protect things, but sometimes these cross-institutional types of arrangements we could benefit from without having to go, some of our faculty that have done this looked at a couple of things on their own. They're using patent attorneys in the Northeast, not locally. So helping maybe identify and build a pool could foster economic development in that area. I think that's something that's lacking.
That sounds great. I do want to, we do have a lack of that. And in some communities where they have law schools, that's a great source of support in that area, getting these legal interns. But maybe we can make an alliance with a law school to get that support. Again, Zoom, COVID, silver lining. We all learned how to use Zoom effectively and comfortable working with folks from, in this digital way. So very, very good point there. I do want to mention that we got an EDA Sprint grant last year to launch our devised product development lab. Within that there is the prototyping aspect, but we also have retained a regulatory consultant that is available at no cost to the innovators who are working with us for the next several months to help them develop their regulatory pathway and support them through that process, again, at no cost while we are under this grant. So that's a great opportunity. We're trying to build this concept so that we can retain those services in our community that are lacking today. We're excited to have partnered with a group out of Tucson who have phenomenal experience and get us as a kind of a regional partner. So we'll make sure to send you all some information on that and work on the IP attorney pool. And lots of other things that you all talked about, some education programming, perhaps a conference to take some of these ideas further, or an SBIR, STTR conference, maybe data repositories or research databases that are more regional or somewhat catalytic. But we are running a little bit low on time, so I want to bring in one question with a little bit of a twist. One of the MCA projects that we've been working on for a while is to grow our medical device industry. Right now it employs over 40,000 people in this region, a lot in Juarez, some in El Paso. We have over 52 suppliers with a lot of the supplier base in El Paso. It's a really amazing industry that we have here. And we're trying to grow the industry to get closer to innovation, towards product development and innovation in itself. So how can your institutions get more involved with the medical device industry so that we can continue to support it in this form, but also help it mature to be closer to innovation and product development?
Well, one area that I'll mention just within the public health sector is providing some human health risk tools that can address the efficacy and efficiency of medical devices. And they can also address the health risks associated with people who are using them and inform economic costs and benefits. And so this can be a way to enhance that industry. And then we have a very strong environmental and occupational health sciences program within a department at the school, but also here locally. So just working in those workplaces that design and develop the medical devices and use them, there's lots of resources that can be used to address their performance and assess, human health risks to provide, best protection practices.
Might be tapping you that immediately for our devised product development lab.
I think expanding on what Christy's talking about is looking at telehealth opportunities, and not only the access, but finding, the technologies need to work in very rural areas. So if we're going to expand, particularly in New Mexico, into these areas, we have to have devices that are going to work in areas where right now we are going to find poor internet connectivity. 5G may help us in the future with that, but it's how we're going to provide access, which could then improve healthcare. So it's the partnership between the technology exists if you're fortunate enough to live in a major metropolitan area, but if you're not, and home is somewhere that's very rural or underserved, it may limit the ability of the technology to reach and expand healthcare.
And I would say too that to go back to some other comments, which is we also utilize the promotoras to sort of demystify the fear associated with a medical device that might be unproven, or so I think it really goes back to that community engagement and really relying on these people who have the voice of the community to be able to be the extenders of the healthcare and really help us bring these devices into this community.
Yeah, and I think just to build on that, I think, some of our faculty are developing, like James Lee, I think you know him, who I think won an MCA award for really a rapid device, low power, low preparation detection for infectious agents, for example. Or he's working on now one for cancer detection. You don't have to have a giant laboratory with lots of equipment and trained personnel to be able to do this. So I think, yeah, these are incredible opportunities, but I think trying to move that to the next level, how are you going to develop that? One's a little prototype that's there, I think, but how do we get them to that next point? But I think back to what you said, Em, about the networks. I think at UTEP, we have these animal facilities, we have these vivariums, we have laboratories that have a lot of experience in materials. It could be an opportunity for you to think about how that individual that has that product but is wondering what's the bioavailability, how well is it tolerated, does it elicit an immune response, will it be rejected material or not? And I think there's a lot of capabilities of all of our institutions that maybe could think about putting that through the pipeline just to get that proof of principle, or to kind of nail down some of those key outstanding questions about whether this is even possible. Because I think we could do that. I think if we collectively work together to think about that punch list of things that have to be identified and validated. Again, there's a lot of technology and a lot of dedicated staff. I'm not talking about faculty, but technical support that could do this work. So I think it's untapped. So we have to take advantage of the resources we do have, even if they're, limited.
Okay, I have a couple of audience questions. We'll see what we can get through. The question is, how are institutions addressing clinical research diversity and disparity?
Well, one thing I could just mention, UT Houston, we just submitted a grant with a couple other institutions, including Texas Tech, to work with community health workers. If it's funded, it was an FDA proposal to find ways to recruit underrepresented people in clinical trials. And part of that will be involving community health workers. And I think it's being intentional about the research, as some of the comments alluded to earlier today.
And we're in the process of discussion with an organization that actually will bring us big pharma to Texas Tech, and who are specifically seeking the Hispanic population to be included in their studies. So I think that's another way, which is that such that we have this unique patient population, partnering with other people who really want to utilize our patient population within their clinical trial to increase the number of Hispanics that are represented in that clinical trial. So we're actively trying to do that as we speak.
And as mentioned earlier, our institution, some of our students are working with faculty and beginning to reach out and try to gain more understanding into the types of disparities that the American Indian population is facing, and the differences and ways to alleviate it. So some of that's more of behavioral type of research and population health research that's just starting to get underway.
Well, this is probably a good place for me to plug our Clinical Trials Academy. We have our first cohort of our Clinical Trials Academy at the MCA going through right now. And in order to get more of our diverse population in trials, we have to build up that infrastructure for clinical research in our community, which includes trained principal investigators, trained clinical research coordinators, and more sites that are trained in operating with clinical trials to bring the patients through. So if anyone knows of anyone who wants to get into the clinical trials industry, our Clinical Trials Academy is available right now at no cost to to participants, and hopefully we will launch a second cohort here soon. That's a project sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb. So there's most certainly by industry a lot of interest in getting more diversity in their trials, and we're a great location for making that happen.
And I'll put a plug. We already just hired one of the students, so that definitely there is a large need for more clinical research coordinators, and so such that you are continuing to educate them, we will continue to hire them.
Wonderful news! Wonderful news. And there's one question left in our chat box. Speaking of industry, it says, "Do you have any data on postdoc industry PhD retention, recruitment, and satisfaction in the area?"
That is a really great question, I have to admit, right? So such that postdocs are leaving academia because it's so incredibly difficult to get grants and the like, or they're just leaving academia because they're really interested in going into big pharma, or it's a great question. I do not have any data on that, but I think that it's one that I would love to explore further.
I'll just comment, we don't have graduate programs, but as a former graduate dean, the Council of Graduate Schools would be a good place to start if you can get your graduate deans on your campuses to connect with them.
And it's interesting, Emma, purely anecdotally, but I have 3 PhD graduates. One's at Novartis, one's at Roche, and one's at AbbVie. And they're all in clinical research. So, and they all said the same thing. I can't believe you were doing this work in El Paso, right? And I think, again, we're losing out on a lot of this really strong talent if we could channel them into that industry here that could be hopefully developed more significantly in the region.
And then I'll just add, I don't have data, and this is anecdotal, but philosophical discussions by the water cooler usually talk about what are some personal aspirations. What would the personal and professional life look like if I went into industry versus academia? And then choices are made based on those comments. So
interesting. Well, it seems like we have a huge amount of opportunity to collaborate on winning major research grants as a region, interinstitutional grants. But I think here we just identified a huge opportunity also, that if we create a strong collaboration regionally, maybe we can make a play for one of these companies to put a stake in the ground here in El Paso, so that some of our folks can stay here and work here and contribute to our local economy and be closer to homes. And with the assets that we now have regionally, that makes sense. We just maybe don't do a good job at promoting it, and most certainly not promoting it as this collective. And so there's another to do on our list coming out of this awesome session that I want to thank you all so much for being part of. We have 2 minutes till we move on to our actual poster session, which is going to be really exciting. And I think Jackie's going to come on here in a second and give some direction about how to access this. But I've been very inspired for the last 16 years about what's happening here in El Paso. And each year my excitement grows and grows because there's more and more to be excited about. I really appreciate the 4 of you coming on here, for the 150 plus people who registered to be here today to hear this. And the call to action is that let's not end today. Let's have today be a beginning of the conversation of interinstitutional regional grants and opportunities for attracting industry to this region. So amazing panel. Thank you all so much for your dedication to our community and your leadership in research here and globally. We are very fortunate to have you here in El Paso and Las Cruces. Thank you so much. And Jackie, I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everybody, all of our wonderful panelists, for that amazing discussion and all of the great ideas that came out of it. So we're ready to start our poster session in about a minute. Just a reminder to the poster presenters and the teams, you should be able to access your sessions now. So if you're looking at the screen on the left-hand side, you should be able to look in the sessions and go to your poster session. For everybody else, if you don't mind just giving our poster teams a couple of minutes to get settled into their sessions. We really hope that you will treat this as you would an in-person poster session. Go to multiple posters, ask questions, engage with the presenters who are on the other side of the screen, learn as much as possible about them and about their research. We will be tracking the analytics from this event and giving awards to those posters that have the most unique visitors. So I challenge you to visit as many posters as possible between now and 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, the event isn't over. We're going to open it up for a networking session so that our poster presenters can visit other researchers, right? So the goal here is to foster and to encourage interinstitutional collaboration. And what better way to do that than by letting each other see their research and meet each other. So we hope that you will take full advantage of the next hour or so to go look at the posters and meet other researchers in the region and, make new friends. So we're going to end the broadcast now and encourage you to go over to the sessions. And we'll see you back here at about 5:15. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again for participating in the poster session. I hope that you enjoyed your time this afternoon, visiting the different presenters and researchers. Thank you again to all of our participants and to our panel. We do have some awards that we'll be giving out to the posters that had the most visitors. The clear winner based on our analytics is Yunus Tekin and Michael Anderson and their team over at Burrell College. Congratulations. The whole team will be receiving a gift group of gift cards for you to enjoy, but we'll also be sending all of the attendees a little goodie bag and token of our appreciation for your participation today. So just for the presenters and poster presentation participants, please be on the lookout for some information tomorrow about how you can get your prizes. And thank you again for your participation and for encouraging your friends and networks to attend. I'm going to hand it over to Emma now to give us some closing remarks. Thanks, Emma.
Thank you so much, Jackie. And a special thanks to all of our presenters, our great panelists, all the researchers who presented posters today, and all of you who attended. Without you, we don't have an event and we don't have the collaboration we need to move all this forward. I want to give a big shout out to the MCA staff who put this together. It's a lot of organization. Jackie Butler and Christian Botello, much appreciated all your hard work. And a big thank you also to El Paso Electric for sponsoring the regional poster session. And before we close, I just want to remind you about a few upcoming MCA programs and events. On March 2nd, we have our Devise Product Development Lab workshop called Demystifying the FDA. And on March 3rd, we have our CTX briefings on clinical trial diversity and inclusion. You can find more information about those events and all MCA programs at our website at www.mcamericas.org, or you can contact us directly through our website at the Contact Us page or through our About Us and bios. And I also encourage you to sign up for our newsletters. We have an MCA general one around innovation, one around clinical trials, and one around Bio El Paso Juarez. So hopefully you stay connected and let us know how we can better serve you and our growing life sciences industry. Thanks for your participation today, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.